You're listening to the Cinemental podcast.
Shall we begin?
Welcome back to the Cinemental podcast, where we discuss mental health themes from cinema, television, and popular culture. I'm Jeffrey Jones, and I'm a filmmaker and professor, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother, Dr. Joshua Jones, who, as well as being the leadoff hitter for the DSM-5 baseball team, is a general and forensic psychiatrist.
Oh, Jeff. So about 12 years ago in my small town where I'm a doctor, a group of lawyers decided, hey, let's start an annual lawyer versus doctor softball game. Just,
Nice.
Mix it up, have fun. I tore my hamstring so badly at first base. Oh my God, it hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And we got trounced by the lawyers like 16-0. And that was the first and last annual county lawyer versus doctor.
You've taken some big injuries in what is essentially intramural activities. I remember you catching a girl's head right under your chin and just lights out. You've taken some big injuries in some very amateur sports.
Jeff, if I'm going to play, I play hard.
It's true. It's true. Okay, today we are continuing our conversation of Moneyball. Just as a quick reminder, Moneyball was a movie based on the true story of Oakland A's general manager Billy Beane, and he used data-driven analytics to rebuild his team after losing his star players, and it defied baseball tradition, and his unconventional approach led the underfunded A's to a record-breaking 20-game winning streak in the 2002 season, forever changing how the game is played. And Josh, you made this point on Monday. 2 years later, the Red Sox adopted the same strategy and broke the curse of the Bambino and won the World Series. We talked a lot about innovation on Monday. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into anxiety. Josh, you kind of gave this diagnosis on Monday. Billy Beane is driven by anxiety. What makes you say that? And before you even get into that, define anxiety for us.
Anxiety is an anticipation of the future.
Okay.
And it is not a bad thing. It's one of the things that I really try to preach to people when I'm talking to them about their anxiety. Anxiety is a very normal human emotion. And without it, our species would kind of just cease to exist.
Okay.
It's the thing that drives us forward. It's the thing that makes us prepare for something that we have to do. It's, the fear of looking like doofuses makes you and I prepare for this podcast. It's the thing
Is
that
excitement
makes
about the future also a form of anxiety?
It is. It
Oh.
is. Yeah, excitement and anxiety are probably the same thing, overlaid by our emotional experience of it.
Right.
Right? So excitement has kind of a positive connotation. Anxiety has a little bit of a negative connotation.
Right.
But two people could be thinking about the same upcoming event, have the same level of, nervous system activation, and be looking at it through two different emotional lenses.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Sure.
But it's the same system of neurotransmitters and neurons in our body that is activating during that. So anxiety is not bad. And when we talk about it in a psychiatric perspective, we're really talking about over-anxiousness or anxiety that one can't control. It becomes an anxiety disorder. As we've talked about many, many times, a disorder is when it interferes with your functioning in one or more spheres of human existence.
Right.
And most of the time, the anxiety that we see interfering tends to interfere with social or vocational activities. People tend to try to avoid things that give them anxiety that is too uncomfortable for them to deal with. And that's what we really try to help people get over so that they're experiencing the full panoply of human existence and experiences.
Sorry. Panoply?
Yeah.
That's not a word people know.
What's a word I know? So look it up.
No.
Put it in the show notes, Jeff.
This is not the dictionary crowd, Josh.
It's a word. Panoply. It means a
I'm
lot.
sure it is.
Means full spectrum, a lot of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
God, you're a panoply of dicks right now is what you are.
You know what's interesting? You know what's fascinating me, Josh? And there's so much to say about anxiety, but because I hear you about
Is it how much your vocabulary sucks? Because that's what I think is fascinating.
Fuck all the way off. The difference between excitement and anxiety, but there's that middle spot that's so cool where you're super scared of something, but if you can get through that fear, you're going to have such a great time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like skydiving, I think is the perfect example where it's like people have pants-shitting panic about it. And then they do it. And it's like the greatest thing that they have ever done.
Pants-shitting panic. Oh, my God. Oh, that is great. That's a great phrase. Yeah, and it's so funny. You and I experienced skydiving so very differently. I would say on the whole, I am a more generally over-anxious person than you are.
Sure.
But it is so interesting. Again, different people experience things differently. When we went skydiving, you actually took me skydiving for the first time. I think you'd been skydiving before, and you described this. Oh, it's terrifying, but it's exhilarating. I went up and I was just like, okay, jump out of an airplane. Meh. It was just kind of okay.
Yeah.
There wasn't any anticipatory fear. I kind of knew the safety protocol, everything. You know, I know the statistics about how many people die or don't die jumping out of airplanes. It was just kind of fine.
Yeah, you also did it for the first time at what, 40?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I did it for the first time at 18. And so my first experience of it was far different than your first experience. And I was sort of remembering my experience of skydiving, which I think there's something to that as well.
But my point is that even if you are like a super, super anxious person in general, an over anxious person, different stimuli hit people very differently.
I think your point was that I was a nervous little bitch and you were super cool about it. That's what I heard. Let me know in the comments. I'm 100% kidding.
That was not my point at all. My point is that different stimuli can hit people very, very differently.
Right.
I'll recall I had an interaction with a patient when I was in medical school. I wasn't even the psychiatrist, but I was shadowing a psychiatrist, and he was talking to somebody who had a lot of panic attacks. Was just panicked about so many things about leaving the house, and in the interview, you could feel the anxiety just kind of emanating off her. It just so happened that at the very moment we were having this interview, an earthquake hit Olympia, Washington, which doesn't happen very often. It was a 4.0. It was something that really rattled things, and we were all shaken up and and the psychiatrist and I were like, "Oh my God!" And we looked at the patient, and the patient said, "Oh, was that an earthquake? I'm from Southern California. We have them all the time." And kept going right into the story about their panic.
Yeah.
So that was my point.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That you shit all over.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of that on this podcast. Okay, so talk about Billy Beane.
There's a fair amount about what?
Shitting on each other. Talk to me about Billy Beane and his anxiety, because I actually thought that was really interesting. And when you said it, I was like, of course that's what it's about. But I didn't necessarily glean that from the beginning. So talk to me about why you think, again, and you said this last time, and go ahead and say it again. When we're talking about a diagnosis, we're diagnosing the character, not the person.
Not the person. I mean, I haven't examined Billy Beane. I'm not talking about him as a person. I have no idea what he's like. I would say that Billy Beane likely has generalized anxiety disorder, a pervasive sense of dread of the future that presents one with a variety of physical symptoms. You know, we didn't see this from him, but typically, dry mouth, upset stomach, sweats, cold. You can even have some brain fog with it. I think a lot of those scenes that we saw of him just by himself contemplating stuff before he makes a decision was him wrestling with his anxiety. And if you could see in there all of the things that he was thinking, I think it would have just been a kind of a muddled mess of, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? I mean, he says, what am I doing? One time in one of those moments. I think the movie does a really good job of showing how probably it was that over-anxiousness that thwarted his Major League Baseball career.
Well, and they make that really clear in the book. Like, he had all the intangibles, like the size, the hitting power, all the things, but he just was too stressed out when in a game. And he would lose his mind and break bats, and if he struck out in the first at bat, he was done for the game. But if he did well, then he was great. And there's a really interesting story where they bring him to a ballpark just to test out a pitcher. And so there was nothing on the line for Billy, and Billy just lit him up.
Oh.
Because there was nothing on the line for Billy.
Yeah.
But when he got into the game, all of a sudden, like, he panicked, and he had massive over the top reactions to failure. And again, that's from the book. I don't know that that's true about Billy. That's the portrayal. That's what they said about him in the book. But I think that goes right along line with what you're saying and what they showed in the movie.
That is what they show in the movie, and you see that in the Billy Beane character in the movie after his strategy that he's worked out with Peter Brandt isn't working for the first few games of the season, and he goes into the locker room with a group of guys he doesn't really know because he makes that a point that I'm not going to get to know them because I might have to cut them. Again, I think that's born out of over anxiousness.
It is, but I think that's so interesting because I'm going to make a point about that in a minute.
But then he goes in, he reams them out, and then he trashes the locker room a little bit and throws a bat and water cooler, etc.
Yep.
That anger, that irritability, again, we've talked about this a lot. I fully believe that anger is a secondary emotion, and for him, it was really driven by anxiety, by the over-anxiousness of the situation.
Okay, so this is where I think it gets really interesting, Josh, because I would imagine that anxiety and being a person who's very anxious has got to get in the way of being somebody who wants to innovate, because it takes a lot of courage to be an innovator. It takes a lot of courage to go against the grain. Tell me if I'm wrong about this. It's got to be helpful to get over your anxiety, to have something that you really emotionally believe in, more so than just the desire to innovate. And let me tell you why I say that.
Okay.
Because I've been thinking about this a lot of like why Billy Beane could be such an innovator. I think it's because he was so hurt by getting misevaluated that he never wanted another player to go through the pain that he went through. And so he wanted to evaluate people correctly because it was so hurtful to him that baseball let him down. And so it's so funny you say that about the team where he didn't really want to get to know him, because I think he was actually driven by wanting to save them. And that's why he was an innovator.
That's a really interesting point. And in the movie, I think you're given a little bit of a peek about that when he has the final conversation that he has with the head scout. And the head scout says, "What, Billy, a scout misjudged you 20 years ago and you want to burn the whole thing down now?"
Yeah.
So, I mean, they'd had conversations. They'd had a personal relationship before that led the scout to believe that. So I think that lends credit to what you're saying there.
And when he sends the guy down, he has to because they bring on a player, they have to send someone down to the minor leagues, and he goes in and he talks to the player, and trading someone didn't mean anything to Billy, but having them go down hurt him. And you saw the difference. You saw the difference between that you're traded. I mean, he enjoyed trading Jeremy Giambi. It wrecked him to take a professional and send him down to AAA. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a neat moment.
But your question about having to
get overcome
over your anxiety so that you can innovate, I think is incredibly complex. So let me boil it down as best I can. First, I wouldn't use the phrase getting over anxiety. You have to learn to manage it. You have to learn to work with it. It is a concept.
That makes sense.
It's an emotion that is with us all the time. And again, it's the over anxiousness that prevents people from doing things because they try to control it by avoiding the anxiety. So again,
and anxiety, to your point earlier, that's so well said, Josh, because anxiety is going to turn into excitement. It's not going to disappear. You can just kind of turn the dial on where it is on the positive negative meter, but you're not going to get over it where it doesn't exist. It's just going to exist in a different sort of capacity. That's well said.
And they did a very nice job of portraying that tipping point in the movie with the Billy Beane character around the trade deadline when he got very excited about moving players around and working his fellow GMs, a skill that they allude to in the film that he's actually really good at and has to be really good at because he knows he has a fairly losing hand with this budget with the open days.
An awesome scene.
It was an awesome scene. It was an awesome scene because it really shows the difference between over anxiousness and excitement.
Right.
It's likely the same nervous system impulses and neurochemicals interacting in the body, flavored by the emotional sense that one has about what's going on.
Yeah. And even though he was anxious about it, at that point he was good at it and he'd practiced it enough that his anxiety was more excitement than it was a negative emotion.
Yes.
I know you don't like the term positive and negative emotions, but I think it's an easy way to sort of understand, that moment. Yeah.
Sure.
Positive and negative. What else do you want us to know about anxiety, Josh? Getting away from the movie a little bit. I do just want to to be helpful for the people, what should people know about anxiety? What don't most people know about anxiety?
I can't say it often enough, Jeff, is that anxiety is not bad. It is not a negative emotion. It is
so when you're feeling
normal-
overly anxious, get it out of your head that that's wrong or bad.
That's wrong. It is a signal. Your body is giving you a signal. It is helping you out to figure out, hey, here is something that's going on, whether it's, an activity that's going to happen or an interaction you just had or a thought you're having. Here's something that's going on that's giving you a signal to be aware, not necessarily watch out, but like, oh, this is a signal. This is information for me to use to plan my next move.
Right.
Now, look, anxiety can be so overwhelming that you really can't have those conscious thoughts. And if that's happening to you,
get some help.
That's the time to get some help. And the best treatment for over anxiousness at this point in time is talk therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy works very well to help identify the triggers that you're having that causes the over anxiousness and figure out strategies on how to work with it and really kind of turn that anxiety into an early warning system that can help you.
Yeah. CBT and very, very heavy drinking, right? Those are the two.
That is not accurate. That is just not. God damn it, Jeff. No. In fact, although alcohol can have an anxiolytic or anti-anxiety effect, it is an empty promise because it is going to bounce back. Obviously, there's a lot of health detriments to alcohol. It is not a very effective way to manage your anxiety.
Yeah, let me throw two more on there, Josh. Alcohol, sugar, caffeine.
Right. All those
are all like anxiety triggers.
Can be ways to manage anxiety unhealthily.
Right.
And if you're finding that you're doing that, it really is time to double down with therapy. And if therapy alone isn't working, talking to a prescriber about what kind of antidepressant / anti-anxiety medications might be right for you to help just kind of dial down the over-anxious dial from 11 down to something that's a little more manageable.
Yeah. Is there anything people don't know about anxiety that you think is really fascinating?
Yeah, it goes back to my earlier comment that anxiety is not bad. Anxiety can be an early warning system for you to tell you that something's happening that you want to pay attention to and not something to shy away from. The other thing that you need to know about anxiety is that it is not going to harm you. And this is the thing that I talk to people who have panic attacks. And now panic attacks are sudden, strong surges of anxiety that can last from 15 to 30 minutes. The real terrifying thing about a panic attack is that it can feel like you are dying.
Right.
A lot of people present to the emergency room feeling that they're having chest pain that gets ruled out and ends up being a panic attack. Once you've got that ruled out, and you know that you're having panic attacks and not having cardiac problems, the really important thing to know is that once you survive a panic attack, you know how to survive a panic attack. They're not going to harm you, and you can get through it. And that knowledge in and of itself is that once you get through an over-anxious moment, you know you can do it, and now you just have to build on how do I get through it with a little bit less distress.
Right. Yeah. And name it to tame it sort of thing, which I love.
Name it to tame it. Mm-hmm.
A very, very close personal friend of mine, sometimes has panic attacks and suffers anxiety. And recently they went through one and just knew what it was. It's like, oh, I'm having a panic attack right now. Yep. And it's like, I'll get through it. I need to slow down. I need to take a break. I know what it is. And it's just awesome to be able to be like, not going to pretend I'm not having it. Not going to be mad at myself for having it. Just, I'm going through one. It sucks, but I'll get out on the other side. It's awesome.
Jeff, I think that's about all I wanted to say about anxiety, but I really want to talk about an experience you've been having recently that I'm fascinated by. So Moneyball is adapted from a book called Moneyball. You're adapting a book as well. Tell me about adapting a book. How do you do that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So there's different levels of adaptation, to give you like the full spectrum. No Country for Old Men was a faithful adaptation. It was basically a scene by scene recreation of Cormac McCarthy's book, of the same title. And so you can certainly go that route. Moneyball is the other end of the spectrum because Moneyball is really more of a detailed biography more than a narrative story. And so when you're adapting a book like Moneyball that's more informational, you have to invent the story. And so you have to come up with, character wants and a driving force. With a book, you're allowed to be more internalized. We can get people's thoughts. We can know exactly what they're thinking. Oftentimes books are a lot more philosophical. They talked about the philosophy of numbers. They went to great lengths to talk about sabermetrics. And so there wasn't the story of this anxious guy named Billy Beane making all these moves. And a lot of those scenes were either dramatized or completely made up. So when you're adapting a book, you want to look for the theme first. You're always looking for theme first. And that is an artist's statement about the human experience. In this case, it's very well said by the scout. Some scout got it wrong with you 20 years ago, and now you're declaring war on the whole system. That's the theme of the book, is he's going to do anything he can to make this not an unfair game. It is unfair and he wants to fix it. So he's going to do everything he can to fix it. Inciting incident, he meets Peter Brand and they're off to the races trying to fix it. And he's going to do whatever he can. None of that is in the book. It's the driving force of the film. And so to make a film, you have to have a driving force. And we think of that as the want or the need of the main character. And so while Billy Beane was the focus of the book, it was a lot more philosophically geared, or, a lot more of they didn't really even internalize anything. It was just much more about the process of Moneyball. And so when you're adapting a book, you're looking for what is that driving force of a main character.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Another obvious difference between, making a movie and a book is the visual aspects of it.
Right.
Is there a particular technique? How do you think about that, about transitioning the black and white from the page into the visual medium of the movie?
Yeah. And that's really cool. That's a really fun moment. A fun thing to do and we talked about it a little bit on Monday, where you were talking about how much time Brad Pitt spent by himself. So there's a great moment, and this is a really good example of showing, not telling. And that's what you're always looking to do. You're looking to show the emotion, not tell. At the very end of the movie, Brad Pitt goes to Boston and gets this offer to be the highest paid GM. And he comes back and Peter Brand shows him this video of this overweight baseball player who hit a home run and didn't know he'd hit the home run. And it was a metaphor for Billy. And Billy's trying to think about what to do. He walks onto the field and he lays down on the field. And Peter Brand is watching him, lay down on the field. We know what he's thinking in that moment. And they picked the specific visual of him being home, him being in the place that has meant something to him for so long. And we can imagine these feelings of do I want to get away from this? Is this what I'm meant to do? Is this where I'm the most comfortable? And so you're looking for visuals that tell that internalized story. And that is an art. That is a really hard thing to develop, but the great screenwriters can do it. Another scene is at the end, he puts on the tape from his daughter. And the daughter has the line, "Hey, Dad, if you end up moving to Boston, great to know you."
You were a great dad.
Yeah, you were a great dad. But here's that song that you wanted him to sing. And so he's sitting in the car listening to his daughter. And he doesn't say anything, but we know in that moment, he's not leaving. We can see the emotion on his face. You could imagine in a book, it's, "As I hear the words of my daughter and I think about all that I've accomplished." We don't need all those words because we're watching him be so overwhelmed with emotion about what he's just done, and the love of his daughter, not wanting to be away from his family. The A's are his family. No amount of money can pull him away from that. He has said earlier in the movie, "I made a decision based on money once, swore I would never do it again."
Right.
And so, when you're oh, why are they just showing Brad Pitt's face? His face is doing a lot of work. His face is doing a lot of work.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, but it's really interesting to me that a lot of the times in adaptation, you're not trying to faithfully adapt the book. You're trying to tell the emotional story of the book, but in its own new and unique way. For this thing that I'm adapting, this book that I just adapted, I told him going in, this needs a love story. I'm inventing a female love interest because I think that this story needs a love story. And they were like, "Great, that sounds perfect." You do that and you're off to the races. Sometimes it looks very similar to the book. Sometimes it doesn't look anything like it at all, but they're both good adaptations.
It's so interesting when we do these podcasts after I've just watched the movie again,
Right.
and then you talk about making it. It just makes the experience so much more rich for me about, okay, well, that now I understand. I mean, because, I was making fun of how often we saw Brad Pitt's face for just 10 minutes. And I kind of knew, there's a point to that. Of course, it's not just look at Brad Pitt, he's so pretty.
Right.
He is. But it was also, there's a point to it. It sets up that end scene incredibly well.
Yeah, and I mean, really good filmmakers leave nothing to chance.
Sure.
The mug that someone's drinking out of will say something about the character.
Right.
Like somebody wearing a Care Bears hug dealer shirt tells you something about that character where they're like, they don't really care what you think about them. They love hugs. It just tells you something. And there's no reason to miss a moment or a frame where I can give you a piece of information visually. And great filmmakers think of everything. William Friedkin was famous for being like, what is in the background there? Can we change that? Can we change the color? Can it be a message? Can it be more in the right tone? They don't miss a moment to tell the story. Mugs matter. The paintings on the walls matter. What people wear matters. I hate it, Josh, when people dress not in the garb of the time. You probably didn't notice it, but Brad Pitt through the whole movie is in pleated pants because that's what they wore in 2002.
I did not notice that.
Pleated pants are ugly. We all know pleated pants are not fashionable nowadays, but he wore them because that's what they wore back then. And Billy Beane didn't necessarily care about how he looked, but he's in pleated pants. Seven's another great example where like his shirt wasn't ironed and he wore a Daffy Duck tie and he looked ridiculous and it was like, it wasn't a fitted shirt. It's like, those are to me great storytelling moments where people are paying attention to every little detail. They didn't ask Brad Pitt to show up with just a pair of pants that they happen to be pleated. It was a decision to put him in pleated pants. That is the level of detail that goes into movies. I see on TikTok a lot recently. I don't know why, but people talk about the top 5 best baseball movies, and they include Moneyball in it. I don't think Moneyball is a baseball movie. I think it's an economics movie. And it bothers me when people say that this is a baseball movie. I think you have to have players on the field. We have to see a game being played. There has to be plot points about how they're playing that specific game. Do they bunt? Don't they? The only real moment we see in Moneyball is when Hatterberg hits the home run. That's really it. For the rest, we see it in the background, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, this is not a baseball movie. Do you agree with that?
I do agree. I mean, let's contrast it with what I think we all agree is a real baseball movie, Major League. Major League was a movie about baseball. Was it a screwball comedy? Absolutely.
Right.
But a lot of the action took place on the field during the game. It was a baseball movie.
Yeah. For love of the game. Do you think that's a baseball film?
I would say about half and half. I mean, they tried to make it about, love and loss and blah, 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 but it really was, and about aging, but it really was a baseball movie.
We so see much a perfect game. I agree. I mean, it was, for love of the game.
Yeah, which I really like. I mean, I like that movie.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff,
okay, but I knew you agreed with me on that because it's setting up our top 5 for the week. And again, this is a top 5 list that nobody asked for, but we're doing it anyway. Josh, we're doing our top 5 sports movies that aren't really sports movies. So give it to me. Give me your top 5. Do you have an honorable mention?
Jeff, I've got 2 honorable mentions for you.
Ooh, sexy.
The first honorable mention, is it really a sport? I mean, I guess it kind of it is. A lot of people would say it is. My first honorable mention is The Karate Kid.
Oh, interesting.
Karate Kid is a movie about martial arts, but it's about martial arts as a vessel for mentorship, discipline, and finding inner strength in the face of alienation, as well as exploiting teenagers to do chores around your house. That's my first honorable mention.
Yeah.
And the second honorable mention, Jeff, which it may be the best movie of all time, but it's just an honorable mention here, is Hot Dog the Movie, which is ostensibly a movie about skiing, but really it's a mid-'80s sexploitation romp.
Sure.
That doesn't hold up in any way, shape, or form, but I'm sure some people would say back in the day, oh, I'm just watching this for the skiing.
Right. Hey, look, as a young boy, I watched it for the skiing. I hit 12. I was not watching for the skiing anymore. after I, discovered real porn. I watched it again for the skiing. It was a whole journey for me with Hot Dog the movie.
So that's
okay,
those are my 2
Josh.
honorable mentions. All right,
give me number 5,
Jeff. Number 5 is Raging Bull.
Oh, sure.
Raging Bull is about boxing, sure, but it's about boxing as a metaphor for self-destruction, toxic masculinity, and the search for redemption. Great movie.
Good
Everybody
call.
should see it. 1980, Scorsese film with De Niro in black and white, but not really a sports movie.
Good call. I'm into that. Okay, great. Number 4.
Number 4 is A League of Their Own. So sticking in the baseball theme, and it is, there's a lot of baseball in it, but really it's a story of gender roles, sisterhood, and personal growth set against the backdrop of a women's baseball league during World War II.
Right. Yeah. I really like A League of Their Own. It's a great movie. Number 3.
Number 3, Jeff, and one of my favorite movies is Remember the Titans from the year 2000.
Interesting. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's about football, but we don't see a ton of football action in it. It's about football, but football serves as the stage for examining racism, leadership, and the struggle for unity amid social change.
Yeah. Good call. Okay, number 2.
Number 2, Jeff, let's go back to baseball. We're going to talk Field of Dreams here for a second, and I'm going to try not to get misty-eyed. Field of Dreams from 1989. Baseball's the canvas, but it's really a story about grief, reconciliation, and the longing to connect with one's past and father.
Yeah.
You want a game of catch, Jeff?
Yeah, I do. Actually, honestly, man, I don't remember playing catch with Dad at all. I remember playing catch with you, and we did it, well into our 20s. I'm sure I played catch with Dad, but
you did. You did.
I'm sure, like I say, but I don't remember it. I remember playing catch with my older brother.
Because he'd take that baseball, put it against the back of his head, and squeeze it off to you. Our dad had a weird-ass throwing style.
He did. Just squeezed it off the brain.
Squeezed it off the head.
All right, Josh, number 1.
Jeff, number 1, and this is a big one for me. It's Rocky. Sure,
nope.
Rocky. Oh, you're disagreeing?
100%, but go ahead.
Oh, well, there's a lot of boxing in Rocky. But it's really about dignity, self-worth, the desire to prove that you matter in the world. And here's why it's not a sports movie, at least the first one. Is why it's not a sports movie. He didn't win. In a sports movie, the protagonist wins.
Okay.
And he didn't win.
Okay. Here's where I'm going to disagree with you. They don't win in Major League either. They don't win the last game, and they don't win the World Series in Major League. This is all whatever your definition is. Just because something is about something else doesn't mean it's also not a sports movie. I think a sports movie is when we see the final game played. And so for me, I do think A League of Their Own is a sports movie. I also think Rocky is a sports movie. Where you got me, though, was Field of Dreams. You're exactly right about Field of Dreams. And it's tough because I think most people's top 5 list of sports movies and baseball movies includes Field of Dreams. And I've seen it and I haven't questioned it, but I think you're right. I think with Field of Dreams, you nailed it. And Moneyball and Field of Dreams don't belong on your top 5 baseball movies of all time. I'm with you.
Okay. Well, that's my top 5 list.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Right. Well, and it is the opinion that no one asked for. Let us know in the comments if we missed any. I'm super curious to know if there's other movies where you're like, yeah, this wasn't really about sports. Miracle, you can make a case for. I think that it fits probably my example where it is a sports movie, but you can make a case that that's not necessarily a sports movie.
I disagree. Miracle is 100% a sports movie.
Well, then so is Rocky, Josh.
Nope, disagree.
Fair enough. All right, once again, this list, top 5 list that nobody asked for. Josh, great job. Great list.
Jeff, did you want to talk about Tilly Norwood?
So I will mention this briefly. So news came out this week or maybe last week. There's this AI character named Tilly Norwood that someone has developed, and agents are clamoring to represent this AI creation as a real actor. I have so many issues with this. Obviously, this puts every actor's job at risk. That's not necessarily a reason to not like an innovation. Assembly lines put a whole lot of people's jobs at risk. Where I think this is very problematic is you cannot develop these things unless they're based on real people. That's where they're learning. That's where they learn their behaviors, et cetera, et cetera. So it is an iteration of other people's work, which I don't think is appropriate. And one of my big issues with it, and I might be alone in this, I don't know, this being cannot say no. They don't have a choice over what roles they're going to take. And I think there's something really inappropriate about that. And I also think it's not surprising and not an accident that it's a attractive female who's the first person or who's the first being that we're seeing in this AI world. And I think that there is a absolute misogyny to creating a beautiful female character that cannot say no. And I could be really reaching there, but I don't think I am.
Yeah, well, we can get a lot into this. I balk at calling it a being. It is a computer program. Yeah, I know what it looks like. I mean, I've seen it. It is an attractive picture of a woman, but that's what it is. It's an attractive picture of a woman, and I get it. I mean, I understand that it blurs a lot of lines, but we don't have to necessarily blur those lines in our understanding of what's going on here.
Right.
I'm not saying that this is a good innovation because a lot of people aren't going to take the time to understand what the blurring of those lines mean. That's what the real danger with AI and this technology is that people aren't going to care and are just going to sit by as this stuff takes over the world. And I know I'm starting to edge into, old man Jones, get off my lawn territory here, but I think the Tilly Norwood episode is another piece in the puzzle of the downfall of humanity. And I just wish it wasn't. I mean, I have said this for years to you and to others without really a platform to say it, is I think the real end of the human race happens when we have a perfectly customizable sex robot.
Sure.
And I think that this is a step in that direction, because if you can have a perfectly customizable sex robot, you don't need to develop any of the interpersonal skills that actually allows you to get those needs met with humanity.
It's so funny. It's so funny, Josh. I actually think it's going to be before that. And I do want to do her next week so we can talk more about this.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's about sex. I think it's actually about an emotionally supportive.
Yeah.
Especially for men, because there is still a real need for men to get emotional support, and they can get it in a private way.
Seemingly private way.
Sure. But you know what I'm saying? Like I do. It's a safe way where you're not exposed, and it's mimicking real human connection that men are craving. And that's a problem, man. It's a real problem. And anyway, let's do her next week, and we'll talk more at length. So that's a tease for next week's episode where we're going to cover her. But for now, Josh, any last thing you want to say about anxiety? I don't think you can say it enough that like anxiety is not a bad emotion.
Anxiety is not a bad emotion, and you don't have to let it conquer you. And it may seem very insurmountable when you're in the midst of a panic attack, or when you don't have the knowledge that you can overcome it. But you can. You need help, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But the help is there. Cognitive behavioral therapy is the first step, and medication beyond that with a good prescriber.
And I love the thing you say where it's informative. It's not something to be scared of. It's not something to try and push down. It's something to embrace and realize what information it's giving you about the situation.
Yeah.
I think that's really great. And also the anxiety and excitement are kind of the same thing in just a different part of the dial.
I think the really important thing to know about that is that it's the same internal mechanism, the same neurochemical mechanism, but seen through a different emotional filter, whether it's excitement or over-anxiousness.
And the biggest takeaway is cognitive behavioral therapy mixed with heavy amounts of alcohol. Thanks as always for watching or listening to Cinemental and our coverage of Moneyball. If you like this episode, please subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also watch clips of Cinemental on YouTube, where we'd love to hear what you would like us to cover next. You can also watch my companion series, The One Thing, where I take a deeper dive into screenwriting. I am going to do a Moneyball episode. Both available on the Large and in Charge channel on YouTube. Follow Dr. Josh Jones, America's psychiatrist, on Blue Sky. This has been a Large and in Charge production. For Josh Jones, I am Jeff Jones, and we will see you next week.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.